All right, welcome to The Stretch. Today we are joined by Mike Renner. He is a NFL draft analyst for CBS Sports. Mike, you've been on with us before. A little peek behind the curtain. You opened the show with being like, I wish I didn't have to talk about how good the Bears draft was. So
he wanted to shit on the Bears.
Exactly. So welcome back, and we're excited.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a Packers fan from Milwaukee originally. So this one hurt. The offseason for the Bears has hurt. It's been ever since they got what's his face, the head coach. I'm like Ben Johnson. I've been just reeling. They've been making some good decisions here.
You know, that means a lot, to be honest with you, to come from a Packers fan. And obviously, you're probably more objective than the average Packers fan who's living in Wisconsin.
Just because the Bears job. Still suck song as their ringtone.
Yeah, because this is your job.
That's my brother.
But yeah, this is because, they like to give a shit over being the offseason champions back to back to back or however many years. And I can't say they're wrong to some degrees, but overall, it sounds like you like what the Bears did. What is your favorite thing that the Bears did?
I think it was just those first two picks, because if just watching what Ben Johnson did in Detroit and kind of his MO and what he does probably better than any OC in the NFL is that he gets guys in favorable positions. He does a lot of pre-draft motion, a lot of pre-draft shift, and he will put guys kind of in spots where like he knows they'll get favorable matchups, and you get a lot of predetermined stuff for your quarterback that way. Where like, oh, I just, had this shift, and all of a sudden it's Amon-Ra St. Brown against the linebacker, Amon-Ra St. Brown against the safety. Jared Goff knows where he's going, right? He knows what's going to happen. So that's like his superpower as an OC. And what he gave them were two guys in this draft class, and Colston Loveland and Luther Burton, who are as flexible as it gets. I said, Luther Burton could play slot, but he could also play running back, and he could also take handoffs, and he's about as dynamic as he gets with the ball in his hands. And then Colston Loveland, he could play inline, but then when they moved him outside and played him at wide receiver, he was like indistinguishable from like a slower wide receiver, like a Jack Besh who goes second round. Like he could run routes as good as that guy can. And so that's why you add two of those guys to your offense, and all of a sudden, Ben Johnson, whatever he wants to dream up to get some favorable matchups, he has a lot of guys who can win those matchups now.
Chief, I got this ice cold Miller Lite in my hand that I won versus you in a hot potato, Miller Lite hot potato.
You didn't need to bring that part of it up.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I have a Miller and you don't. That stinks for you, dude.
Well, I can get them anywhere I want.
Can you?
I can.
Where?
Anywhere in Chicago that sells beer, or I'll go to MillerLite.com.
Oh, MillerLite.com/what?
Stretch.
Oh, and you could do what when you go to that website?
You're going to find delivery options near you.
Wow. You're right. You're right. You can't do that.
So you have one. I might have 24 by the end of this. Yeah.
Good point. Fair point.
Yeah.
Because obviously.
So checkmate. I got it again.
Is it Derby this weekend?
It is.
Oh, so.
Is it?
Miller Lite Derby.
Yeah, it will be this weekend. Yeah, for Saturday in May, baby.
Derby Lights.
Derby Lights.
Derby Lights.
I like that. We have to call up Edzo, get a few horses, get a few Miller Lights, have a good day.
You need it. Cheers to 50 years of Miller Lite, the great tasting light beer for people who love beer since 1975. The taste you can depend on, a great beer trusted by beer lovers for 50 years. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories, and the official beer partner of the Chicago Bears. Go to MillerLite.com/stretch to find delivery options near you, like we said. And like Chief said as well, you can find it pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Tastes like Miller Time Chicago. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Were you as shocked as some people here that not only they went tight end, but then they went with Loveland over Warren?
I wasn't. I actually wrote an article that day saying I had Loveland 10th on my board, I want to say, and then Warren 22nd. So I had a big gap between the two. I thought Loveland was the much better wide receiver. If we're talking about projecting the NFL, what can he bring to an offense? Just much more. He unlocks a different area of the football field than what Warren does. Like Warren's a inbreaker, outbreaker, spot route sort of. That's where he makes his money. Think about like Jason Witten. I feel like that's the type of tight end you're getting. Whereas Loveland's much more of, if you want to run him up the seam and go post or go corner or go, different sorts of routes, just different areas of the football field, he can win and he can touch those areas in a way that Tyler Warren just couldn't. So I am not surprised, because if I saw that, then obviously the Bears and their scouts saw it too. So that's what they add to that offense.
Then I think you had Burton number 20 on your big board. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
So obviously Henderson went the pick before. Is there a lot of people thought the Bears, that's who they were looking for at that spot. Do you think that would have been a better fit as much as we do like Burton?
I do think they still need a running back. Now, obviously, ideally, right, it's not a run first offense. Ideally, it's Caleb Williams takes the leap, gets to be who he thought he was, and you don't even, I don't say running game is an afterthought, but the running game kind of works on its own because everyone has to pay so much attention to the passing game. So I do think they still need that. I mean, there's a reason why Ben Johnson and company moved on from DeAndre Swift the first time around when he was in Detroit. I don't think he's the best run maximizer between the tackles. We'll see how they operate that backfield this year. But in terms of what he brings to the table and flexibility, I think Luther Burden is the perfect third guy to add to DJ Mortaroma-Dunse. But like you now have a receiving core that is truly second to none across the NFL in terms of like top to bottom, 1, 2, 3 wide receiver, add in the tight end. And it's just like they have everything you possibly want for a quarterback at the receiver position now.
Do you think we'll get more 3 wide receiver sets with those two or the 2 tight end sets with Cole Kmet and Loveland?
I think you'll probably get a split. I think he was kind of 50-50 in that regard in Detroit. And I think you'll see that too in Chicago. But it's more that, whatever it is that the game plan needs, right? Now you have both. So you don't have to be stuck into one. So if you face a team, say that has, undersized front seven, and you're like, we can just lean on them this game, then it's the 12 personnel game. Then it's Colson Loveland, Cole Kmet. But if you have a team that's like a high end, run defense, a better run defending front seven, some bigger guys, but then maybe their secondary is weaker. Well, then that's when the training wheels can come off. You can put all the speed on the field, and all of a sudden you can be attacking down the football field. So I think it allows them now the flexibility to craft any game plan you want if you're Ben Johnson.
But that's kind of what's making us afraid right now, as we talked about this on Monday. Like, where are the excuses if the Bears offense isn't good this year, right? It should be a really good offense.
There are none. In Bears history, right? You always have something to point to. Truly, if it's not good, you point to Caleb Williams, unfortunately. But then right? This is about as good a situation as you can get at the quarterback position. If it's not Caleb, if it's not working out, then you have a pretty good handle on where the problem lies, in my opinion.
The other position people were looking at was upgrading left tackle. Obviously, they took Ozzie Trapillo, the BC kid. Do you think they did enough there, and is he going to be a guy that can shift over, or what do you envision his role being? Yeah,
I think he's almost going to have to shift over, or have to be your second string to Braxton Jones, just because I think from Kieran Amagaji, what we saw from him year one, he's a little far away from playing. And it's almost like Trapillo is the opposite end of the spectrum from Amagaji. Like, he is not super physically gifted. He is not this impressive athlete. What he is a guy whose dad played, I believe, offensive line in the NFL, or at least was his offensive line coach growing up, and who's been playing it since day one, who has, the technical prowess to step in right away. He just may never be a high-end guy because he doesn't have high-end physical tools. So it was like an insurance plan there, drafting Ozzie Trapillo, in that someone goes down, we know this guy can step in so much better than the guy we drafted in a similar range a year ago. So I think that's what it was, more so than, hey, he's for sure our tackle of the future. I mean, you're obviously hoping that anytime you draft a guy in that range, but I don't see necessarily high-end starter upside from him, but I think if he had to play in a pinch, he'd be able to, and I bet he'd be more than capable of flipping sides.
So do you believe in this guy, though? Like, where do you stand on Ozzie Trapillo?
Yeah, so I had him just a little bit later on my draft board, just because when you watch him move, and at his size, I think he's going to have some struggles against guys who play with leverage in the NFL. He's super high. I think he's 6'8", super tall, high cut, and that those guys struggle to really bend and get underneath the guy who's a high-end bull rusher at the NFL level, right? So I think there's some athletic limitations that kind of put a cap on his ceiling, but also it's the NFL draft is a hard thing where I think he could start at tackle, and maybe, like Braxton Jones is, where you're not necessarily complaining about him starting, but you just could do better. That's kind of how I feel about Ozzie Trapillo.
Okay.
That's like the perfect way to put Braxton Jones. And I guess he is like the one baked-in excuse they have if things don't go well on offense. But still, then it's like you should have addressed it with a higher
Yeah.
pick and not a tight end. But regardless. Hey, guys, let's pause to talk about Lou Malnati's. Lou Malnati's is teaming up with Frank's Red Hot for a fiery new creation, the Buffalo Chicken Pizza, available in both deep dish and thin crust for dine-in, carry-out, delivery, and a nationwide shipping via Tastes of Chicago. The first official Frank's Red Hot Buffalo Chicken Pizza features Lou's signature buttery crust, a house-made ranch, and a hot sauce blend, shredded chicken, mozzarella, and a drizzle of the secret sauce. It's bold, creamy, and packed with flavor, a perfect pairing of two iconic brands. You can order for pickup or delivery at LouMalnati's.com. It's fantastic, Chief.
You've had it. I haven't.
I have. It's pizza night. Friday is like a universal pizza night.
I think
so
that's American right
yes,
there. Yeah.
exactly. It should be on your menu too.
I will say I love the Red Hot. I love that buttery crust. I can't imagine a better combo.
It is very good. I highly recommend everyone to check out. Just mix one in. You're gonna get the original too. You're gonna get the classic with
Say something
sausage.
else. This makes a great gift.
Yeah, it does.
So they've shipped well. This is something my mom used to do for like our family in different parts of the country. She would send Chicago-style pizzas out, and it was always a huge hit.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Gotta be. So you can visit LouMalnati's.com and order your Buffalo Chicken Pizza and all your deep dish favorites today.
Back to Luther Burton. Last August, when they have the way too early mock drafts, I saw him as high as the top 5. And then obviously he slipped down to 20th on your board, and then ultimately Bears got him at 39. What changed other than the drop in production? Does he have warts that we're not that people aren't talking about really that much yet?
I think just from watching his tape, to me, the biggest concern was his effort on film last year. He didn't want to block much. When he knew he was kind of the guy who's running, because he's a slot, when he's running like the clear out where it's like, I got to take the safety, someone comes in behind me on the dig route, he knew that he wasn't getting the ball and ran like he knew he wasn't getting the ball. So there were just effort concerns on tape that, is the reason why he falls to this point, right? Because I just think you look at the athlete, he's much more talented than this. You look at the sophomore tape, and he's obviously much more talented than, a top of the second round sort of wide receiver. But that's that's kind of like a growing thing though in the NIL era. There's not a small number of guys in this draft class that came with that sort of effort concerns, that they were already, first round mocks. They're already getting 7-figure NIL deals, that the impetus to really work their butt off wasn't there for some of these guys. Now it might be, right? Now he thought he was getting 10 mil a year. Now he's not. So I think the impetus really is there. And you saw that after round 1 when, he tweets out the picture of being at the facility after he's not drafted. And it's like, yeah, that might have been the best thing that could happen to this guy, because I think that was the biggest concern from sophomore, junior year, was just like, where did he get better? I didn't see the avenues where he did. And usually that's kind of a red flag in and of itself.
Do you think so? The way that you were describing him, backfield, slot, all this stuff, is Deebo Samuel like the best comp for him?
That's like usage wise, yes. That's the kind of usage you would give him. Now Deebo's like 225 pounds. It's actually funny. My buddy who plays for the Commanders texted me after Deebo showed up. He's like, dude, Deebo's enormous. He's right now like looks like, Michael Turner, prime Michael Turner in terms of his build. So I don't think comparing anyone to Deebo, unless they're like 220 pounds, is accurate at this moment in time. But like that's the type of receiver in that sort of mold. Honestly, my comp for him, just like physically what he can do, is Amon-Ra St. Brown, which obviously I hate given where he ended up.
That'd be nice.
Now with Ben Johnson,
nice.
Right?
Yeah.
But he's like strong hands, willing to go over the middle of the football field, willing to get hit, and won't go down after the catch. So a lot of things that you love in terms of projecting a slot to the NFL.
Shamar Turner, Bears need some help on the defensive line front. Is this a guy you see stepping in right away?
To me, he's much more of just a third down guy right away. And I think he can make an impact there. He's interesting because early in his career, he was like a defensive end, and he was just like a massive defensive end. But I think on the interior, he really struggled to hold up to double teams. So I'm curious how they see him, because I thought his best tape came when he was more of like a 4-5 or like outside over tackles, especially in the running game. He was better in that regard. But he is a high-end athlete. I do worry that he didn't test pre-draft, but he did have like a stress fracture, I believe, that led to him not being at the Senior Bowl, and then maybe didn't want to put any numbers out there if he wasn't feeling at his best. But I think his role early on's just third downs. I think he gives you more juice than like an Andrew Billings, than maybe you're using Grady Jarrett at his age as more of a first and second down guy. That Shamar Turner's your third down sort of pass rush specialist. I think that's where he really can make an impact right away.
Can he do it at a defensive end in a four-man front in that third down like you're saying? Because is there a scenario where you have Sweat, Dexter, Grady Jarrett, and Shamar Turner on the field all for like a third and long?
I think so, because he is tuned up enough that it never really showed up on tape that like he wasn't athletic enough. Now, obviously, depends on what you want, but I do think Dennis Allen over the course of his DC tenures, he's trended more towards bigger, stronger defensive ends for his scheme. So Turner kind of has been a tweener over the years. It wouldn't surprise me if they see him being capable of doing that.
The fourth rounder, Ruben Hippolyte, that was one that we were all kind of confused by. It doesn't seem like he's a missile, right? Like he's fast as hell. But other than that, I think a lot of people were surprised to see him go with him over an edge in the fourth.
Dude, it surprised me because I hadn't even watched him. I got pretty far down my board this year, and I haven't even watched him because he hadn't been invited to like any of the major, pre-draft. I can't remember what game he did end up going to. I think he went to something, but it wasn't like the Shrine or the Senior. But I did see the 4.42. I flipped on the tape a little bit, and I'm like, you see that right away. So I do think that a lot of teams, what I would bet is that they're seeing like core special team guy based off his tape. That's what I mean. The Packers literally drafted a special team linebacker in the third round last year, but I know a lot of teams, once it gets to day 3, they're looking to fill out those things, and that to me is what this pick felt like.
And were you surprised, like we were, that the Bears did not take an edge? Or are you sold on Dio? Like I think a big thing is a lot of us aren't sold on him. I don't know if you know a ton about him, but if you do, please share.
On who?
Dio, the guy we got.
Okay, so Dio's another guy. That's why I said it wouldn't surprise me if they see him capable of doing that, because they didn't address it. I loved Austin Booker coming out last year, though. I know his flashes in preseason were great. I know he was super young coming out, too. I think like a redshirt sophomore, so he has room for develop. So maybe they really like him. But Dio and Sweat's just like, they just want, I think, two guys who are hard edge setters. And again, Dennis Allen has trended more towards those guys. He'd rather have a 280 plus defensive end than a 250 pound defensive end. So I think that's why they signed Dio. And he did have his career start off on a rocky note because he had a torn Achilles pre-draft, didn't really get to have that rookie year development. So he's kind of a year behind than you would normally expect for a fourth year guy, but truly a freaky specimen. Like 7-foot wingspan, just absurdly long arms, and kind of that guy who bridges the gap between edge and sometimes kicks in on the interior as well. But I didn't see the contract necessarily that they gave him. I saw like a nice rotational player, not necessarily high-end starter to give that money to. So they at least go too deep. They at least have a too deep at every position, even if they don't have stars necessarily. You're hoping Gervon Dexter maybe turns into a star, and kind of the trajectory from year 1 to year 2 suggests that he could. So I guess that's the hope. But I'm not surprised that when you address as much as they did in free agency, drafting one last year that maybe you liked, I think looking elsewhere, especially with what they did offensively, I'm not upset about it all if I'm a Bears fan.
I would like to see that pass pro of Dio versus Ozzy. That's a lot of length in that one.
Yeah. What about, you said you didn't get to Hippolyte, but what about Zob Frazier? Because like his measurables are impressive. Do you think he's a guy, or is he like as a scratch-off ticket?
So I like him. But there is a coworker of mine, Leger Duzable, who works here at CBS Sports, who thinks he is like top 50 guy in this class.
Whoa.
Absolutely loves him. He calls like lower level college football. He was telling me about him during the season. Now I know why. I get why he falls here. He's really like played not a lot of football. 1 year as a starter at UTSA, it was a backup before that. But I think in that 1 year, man, you saw some real like high end traits. I love a game against Texas where, Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond, two guys with real speed who can get behind defenses. He was making up ground on both those guys. Like his ability to really click and close and make up ground down the football field, I was a fan of. And he sticks his nose in it. He might be a little stiff. He's not like a full tree mirror guy, but he's kind of like one of those outside corners that can run with go balls, hitch routes, like the sort of the silo routes that you see on the outside. So I think if, there's any of those day 3 picks that I think could be a steal, he's the one where I'm like, there's potential for him to play above his draft position just because I think the reasons why he fell there aren't necessarily fair to him. His tape was actually very good this past fall.
So if there were 4 scratchers on the table, one was Hippolyte, one was Frazier, one was Newman, and one was Monangai, you're going with the Za Frazier one.
I believe it's Zay. I believe we pronounced it Zay.
We have a Za that works here, so I've been calling him.
Okay. Yeah. Zay Frazier. Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever change that either.
No, he's. I don't care if he's sitting right here. I'm calling him Za.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Obviously, we talked about running back already. People seem to be a little hopeful about Monangai. Did I say that correctly? I hope so.
Yeah, I believe so.
Are you do you see anything there, or is that kind of a classic 7th rounder? Gonna have to really impress at camp to make the team.
I'll say this about him. He at least runs hard. And his junior year, you go back to 2023, I was a lot more impressed with what he did that year than this past season. So he's a guy who is going to try to grind out runs more so than, Roshan Johnson is too, but like more so than DeAndre Swift, if you're kind of comparing those two. And also, I think he has a really good chance of making the roster because I don't think he fumbled his entire collegiate career, which like he was started for multiple years there. And that will obviously ingratiate yourself into an NFL locker room and with the NFL coaches because they hate guys who fumble. So if he didn't fumble his entire career, that's a good thing to hang your hat on. But obviously a little bit on the older side. I thought he probably should have come out a year prior, but I think he has a good chance of making this roster.
Yeah, I mean the whole running back room feels like it's on notice to a degree.
Yeah, it does.
So I think
I got Jeremiah Love circled for the Bears for next year.
Well, are you going to be drafting top 10?
You think he's going top 10 as a running back, you think?
I don't know, man. I think he's special. Now, he's been banged up, though, which obviously, people don't want to draft hurt running backs, but, he is a freak of nature, that guy.
I love Jeremiah. I love him.
Hey, guys, it's the best time to be a basketball fan. All the thrills and playoff drama, done sitting on the sidelines and ready to win some real cash. Check out Pick Six from DraftKings when it comes to a basketball payout. DraftKings Pick Six posterizes the competition, including prize picks. When you hit all your picks, you'll score higher minimum payouts on Pick Six than flex plays on prize picks. And best of all, you'll win even more cash if you outscore the competition. Track your picks for a shot at huge cash prizes. That's all there is to it. Pick Six is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick Six and cash in your basketball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick Six credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Me and Chief are in the Pick Six game. Mm-hmm. If you're following us on Twitter, we're posting picks weekly.
Yeah.
So download
I'm
the
loving
app.
Pick Six.
Yeah, it's fun. Download the app, ride with us. And
I've been very successful. I've cooled off a little bit, but I feel like tonight's a new night.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a very fun app. It's by DraftKings. You should really check it out. Give it a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball playoffs are here. Cash in with Pick Six from DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Pick Six app now and use code StretchPod. That's code StretchPod for new customers to play $5. Get $50 in Pick Six credits. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick Six from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Is there a world where we take a flyer on Loveland or Burton here for Offensive Rookie of the Year with Genty and Hunter and War? Is it too
many mouths? Just too many mouths to feed in the Bears offense, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of like Rome last year. I watching his tape. I think he was as advertised. It's just he wasn't going to command a zillion targets ahead of DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. So that's kind of how I feel this year about those guys. When McMillan goes to a place where he's going to get a zillion targets, where Genty goes to a place where he's going to get a zillion touches, unfortunately, they're going to be behind the 8 ball for that.
You said that with all the weapons now and the line on paper looks much better, that it's just down to Caleb. Where are you on Caleb after a year of NFL tape?
Yeah, there are worrisome things, right? I'm not out, even like close to out, but there are things that have to improve, and it's like you got to admit that they need to improve, and it's his pocket presence and his timing within the offense. So some of that's going to improve just by advent of going to a place and going to a head coach now and Ben Johnson, an offensive coordinator, that is going to make your life a lot easier. It's going to make things a lot simpler for you, and that's going to help. But it's the pocket presence stuff that is worrisome because it was kind of a consistent theme throughout the year, and you didn't really see this next step, and it was a consistent theme through his course of the career at USC. So that's probably my biggest worry. But like the inaccuracy that we saw on tape last year, I think was one of the reasons why last year didn't go as well. I'm not worried about it. At no point during USC did I ever think this guy is inaccurate, right? Like he had some of the best arm talent, some of the best accuracy that, I've seen in the past decade. So I think that's a comfortability thing.
Mm-hmm.
And once he gets comfortable, he'll be much more accurate. So I'm not worried about that. So I'm not pushing the panic button. It's unfortunate that he's in a class where two guys behind him kind of look like hits from day one. But he was always a guy that was a little more developmental than the other two. And so you knew what you were getting in, but the payoff could be much, much bigger with Caleb.
So that if you were going to redraft him today, given his ceiling and what the other two showed in year one, where would he go if you could redo it?
I think I would just put him third, and that's not like a shot. It's just like, dude, last year's class was so sick. Like Jaden Daniels went to the NFC Championship game as a rookie and has lightning wheels, a good arm. Drake May has wheels too, and a plus arm. It was a class that is probably going to have three of, or not, if not four of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL within the next 4 or 5 years, right? So I would just take him because I know Jaden Daniels and Drake May are going to be good based off of what I saw as rookies. Caleb, I'm pretty sure is going to be good. It's just going to maybe take a little bit longer. But yeah, I'd still put him third at worst.
I'm scared because it's not that I don't believe in him. I do, but I don't know how many games we get this year where like people are going to be pulling that panic button because I think, like you said, we had the worst head coach in the NFL last year. Like it's just
yeah,
a fact.
yeah.
He had a million coordinators. Like he was not put in a situation to succeed as far as that front. But now it's like there's no fucking excuses anymore.
Yeah. How much of that of his deficiencies can just be cleaned up? Can be cleaned up in an off season? If it's footwork, if it's pocket presence, if it's timing, can he show up to, in July and be like, "Oh, this guy looks a lot better"?
I think there's a good chance like that we see a lot of it improve. Now, I don't think, the pocket presence stuff, sort of sack avoidance, is somewhat sticky in that, he's not going to turn into Tom Brady in that regard. He's not going to turn into Peyton Manning. Like those guys, you have it early on. Like Michael Penix Jr., he took fewer sacks his entire collegiate career than Caleb took his last year at USC. And it's not like he played in Indiana behind God tier offensive lines, right?
Yeah.
He just, that's a part of his game. That's how he plays. Caleb plays a different style of football. But so like you're always going to take more sacks when you want to create more outside the pocket, when you want to do more that he does. So it's just like a stylistic decision in that regard. But then I think like the timing thing can be improved in an offseason and can be improved with the amount of reps he took as, a rookie and just seeing what he saw and going back and watching the tape and being like, this has to get faster, this has to get faster. And then obviously getting an offense coordinator who's really going to understand your strengths and weaknesses and model his offense to it. I mean, what he did with Jared Goff was nothing short of a miracle, right? Like I think Jared Goff after that trade was like, what the hell are these Lions doing? Like they're not going to be competing. And then all of a sudden they have the best offense in the NFL. So I'm not going to put anything past what Ben Johnson's capable of doing with Caleb Williams and the talent he brings to the table.
Johnson said, I think it was a few weeks ago, no block, no rock. Is there anyone in the film of watching the Bears that you were particularly thinking he was talking about?
I think DJ Moore falls into that camp. He had effort concerns last year, and just like you could tell towards the end of the season, he wanted to play out the rest of his contract, let's say. It wasn't all guaranteed there, and like he wants to hit the end of that. But like Luther Burden too, in this draft class is one where it's like he's going to have to block more than he did on tape at Mizzou. So those two guys are probably the first two names that would come to mind for me.
The only guy we didn't touch on is the guard we got from Michigan State, Luke Newman. And any notes on him? Did you get to watch much of him?
Dude, he's kind of like the guard version of Trapillo, where he's just not physically impressive, but he's very technically impressive. The guy who played a lot of football. And I watched him at the Shrine Bowl up close, and I was like, man, this guy is holding his own. He's just not a guy that, is going to move people off the line of scrimmage. But he's like, if you throw him to the Wolves, you're not going to have a liability there. So I think he's probably, I think Bates probably your first interior backup, and then maybe he's number two. But I think he has a good shot at making the team for sure.
Is he a guy that can be a center if you're talking about a guy who's smart? And yeah. Okay.
I think he can be for sure.
Yeah. All right, then. I mean, is there anything else you had for him, Ryan?
We'll shift to college football. I know you're a big Notre Dame guy. With all they have coming back, is this the national championship year for Notre Dame coming up?
Well, it's you can never say that it for sure is, and obviously they were super close last year, but I have not seen a team at Notre Dame return this much talent. Like defensively, that secondary is unbelievable. I mean,
even
it really
with
is.
Losing Watts and Morrison.
Yeah. I mean, their secondary is outstanding. From what I've heard, CJ Carr is like an upgrade over Riley Leonard. He should be a dude. And this O-line, it's everyone's back, right?
Yeah.
And they're from week 1 to the end of the season. I can't remember a Notre Dame offensive line that improved more over the course of the season. They were like that Texas A&M game was a joke. Yeah. And then by the end, it was like, man, they were holding their own against some Georgia O-line, Georgia D-line, Ohio State D-line, some of the best lines in the nation. So
and
the next step for them,
Jagasaw in there full time.
He'll be a player. I think he'll be their probably best prospect on that line. But like, I think all those guys are probably ultimately going to get drafted. It's just a very good offensive line across the board. And to now be this experienced, I think that combined with Jeremiah Love, one of the best run games in the country, one of the best pass Ds in the country, it's really all setting up that this should be a special year. You never know, though. There's a lot of super teams in college football now, unfortunately.
Yeah, I saw Texas at $30 to $40 million on their roster. That's insane.
Or whatever. I think this Notre Dame team, if not now, then maybe never. They seem like they have, because the passing game last year, like I love Riley Leonard, but he left something to be desired. If you would hope CJ Carr can spin it a little bit, and you saw guys like in the playoff, especially like Greathouse. Like Greathouse,
can play.
He's a weapon, but they didn't use him hardly at all. So if you have a guy who can actually get the ball out to the perimeter, I feel like Notre Dame is in a good spot.
You look excited.
I am excited. I woke up with that thought like today.
You smile more about that than you did the Bears, so that's telling.
Well, one team went to the national championship, and the Bears are the Bears. So, so I am like cautiously optimistic about the Bears, but I think Notre Dame is like pedal to the metal time.
All right, Mike. Thank you. Anywhere people can find your stuff?
Yeah, you can check out the Pushing the Pile podcast. It's me and Kyle Long, or just find me on X at Mike Renner _.
How's he doing, Kyle Long? What's he up to today?
Dude, I think he's on vacation. That guy, he's in off-season mode. He's like he's still a player. The season ends and he's like
checks out
all over the country. He's in Wyoming. He's in Cali. Just
just
old habits.
A lot of Zoom podcasts like this. He's just got a big dip in and he's just giving you his take after he just fished for like 4 hours.
Yeah, and he's like, his kids will be like run in halfway through the pod, and I was like, "Oh, brother, come on!"
I love it. Well, tell him we said hey, Mike. Thanks again, dude. Appreciate it.
For sure, fellas. Thanks for having me. Take it easy.
All right, that's it, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you next week.